Okay, so imagine for a second that your life isn't just this, messy series of days that are happening to you.
Right.
Imagine instead that it's a complex, high-performance piece of software. And you're the lead developer. You're the architect, the debugger, the maintenance crew, all rolled into one. It kind of changes the perspective, doesn't it?
It completely flips the script on agency.
Yeah.
We usually think of our bodies, our habits, as these organic, fluctuating things that we struggle to control. Like, oh, I feel tired today, or, my knee hurts.
Yeah.
But if you treat a knee injury or a bad night's sleep exactly the way a programmer treats a bug in the code, not as some kind of moral failing, but as a system error, it changes how you react.
It takes the guilt out.
It removes the guilt and replaces it with analysis.
And that is the specific vibe we are exploring today. We are taking a deep dive into the mind of someone who actually calls himself a software plumber. We're looking at a blog post from qianmeng.org titled This Week in Review, 2026, Week 03. Now, before we get into the nitty-gritty of his data, the date here is actually really important context.
Right. We are looking at the week of January 19th, 2026.
The third week of January.
Which statistically is the danger zone.
Mm-hmm.
This is the specific week where New Year's resolutions historically just fall apart. The motivation wears off. The gyms get quieter.
The credit card bills from Christmas show up.
The bills arrive and reality sets in. And for most people, when they hit this wall, they stop tracking. They stop looking at the data because the data starts looking bad. They'd rather not know.
But not this guy. Our mission today is to unpack how Eng, that's the author, applies this rigorous, almost stoic logic to everything, even when the week goes completely off the rails.
I mean, everything.
We're talking about tracking sleep down to the minute, debugging your diet, managing an injury like it's a server outage, and even applying that same logic to breeding fish and gardening.
And that title he uses, software plumber, I think that's so telling. Think about that image. A plumber isn't, building the flashy front-end skyscraper.
Mm-hmm.
They aren't the interior designer. They are obsessed with the pipes, the infrastructure, the flow, the deal with the leaks in the basement. And in this deep dive, we're going to see what happens when that plumber turns the wrench on his own life.
So let's start with the hardware, the body. Because if a hardware is glitching, the software, your mind, your work, it just can't run properly. And reading through his log for week 3 of 2026, the data is, well, it's messy. He doesn't hide it.
No, and that's what makes this source so valuable. It's not an Instagram highlight reel where everything's perfect.
Yeah.
He explicitly calls out the volatility. He notes that his sleep progress has, quote, stalled. He's averaging 6.0 hours a day.
Which, in the whole quantified self world, people who track their biological data, that's usually in the red zone, 6 hours is just not enough for full cognitive recovery for most people.
It isn't. And if you look closely at his notes, he identifies the specific bug. He notes that despite a goal to shift his bedtime earlier, his sleep onset, so the precise moment he actually falls asleep, is retreating late into the night.
The drift.
It's a classic drift. You stay up 5 minutes later one night, 10 the next, scrolling or working, and suddenly your whole baseline has shifted. He calls it late night drift.
And his step count took a massive hit, too. He's usually hitting these consistent targets, but this week the average just plummeted to 3,722 steps.
But see, that average hides the real story. This is why looking at the raw data matters so much. He had a peak of over 6,000 steps. A decent day, but then he logs a significant outlier. One day where he only moved 563 steps.
563. That's barely moving from the bed to the bathroom and back.
It's hibernation mode.
Yeah.
Exactly. And the reason was that he was sick midweek. Now, here is the key insight for you listening. A normal reaction to being sick and missing your step goal is guilt. You think, I failed, I'm lazy.
I ruined my streak.
You feel bad about yourself. But Eng looks at it as a system error caused by an external variable, a virus. He doesn't panic. He just notes it.
I noticed that. He writes that the primary challenge remains the lack of scheduled discipline, and his plan is to shift late-night drift to consistent baseline. It's so clinical. It's not, I need to be a better person. It's,
I need to adjust the parameters. It's debugging. When your code crashes, you don't cry. You look at the logs. And speaking of logs, that clinical eye extends to his weight, which is where I found what might be the most counterintuitive insight of the whole post.
Okay.
He clocked in at 68.39 kilograms, breaking a previous plateau of 68.75 kilograms.
Which usually sounds like a win, right? Breaking a plateau is what everyone wants. You usually pop a bottle of champagne or, I guess, a kale smoothie when that happens.
You would think so. But listen to his analysis. He argues that you should be more concerned about abnormal weight loss than weight gain.
Wow. Okay, that flips the standard diet culture logic completely on its head. Usually, loss is good, gain is bad. End of story.
But think about it like a system admin managing a server. If a server suddenly starts using way less power than normal, you don't celebrate the efficiency, you check if a hard drive failed.
That's a great analogy.
He argues that unexpected weight gain is usually just bad input, too much food, processed stuff, you can fix the input. But abnormal weight loss, that could indicate a hardware failure, an underlying health issue, a metabolic crash, something wrong with the machine.
So he's relieved the data suggests a new baseline below 69 kilograms, but he's watching it for stability, not just vanity. He wants a stable system, not one that's crashing.
Precisely. Stability is the goal. A volatile system is an unreliable system.
Okay, speaking of input, let's talk about the fuel he's putting into the machine. His diet is basically an algorithm. He's running a 16.8 intermittent fasting schedule.
Right.
For anyone who isn't familiar, that's a strict window, 16 hours of fasting, and all eating happens within an 8-hour block.
It's a very popular protocol for controlling insulin levels, managing caloric intake without, counting every single crumb. But he adds another layer of code to it, the 2-1-1 ratio.
2 parts plants, 1 part protein, 1 part carbs.
It's a balanced script for fuel. Simple, executable code. But did you catch the specific patch he's applying for his recovery this week? It wasn't just general food.
The deep sea fish.
Yes. He isn't just eating fish because he enjoys it or because it was on sale. He explicitly logs that he's consuming deep sea fish to assist with functional strength recovery via healthy fats.
He's treating the food as a specific utility patch for his muscles. System damage, insert omega-3s to repair. It's just so purposeful.
Which brings us to the actual damage report. The man is dealing with a relapsed knee injury. Now remember the context, 3rd week of January. This is usually when people go way too hard at the gym trying to fulfill a resolution and they hurt themselves.
And then they quit. That's the cycle. Injury usually equals quitting.
Right. They quit because the pain is discouraging. But Ang treats it like systems maintenance. He calls it a conservative plan. He has throttled his training frequency down to just 2 times per week.
Throttling is such a developer term. For those who don't know, you throttle an API or a CPU to deliberately slow down a process to prevent it from overheating or crashing.
Exactly. And he's focusing entirely on leg stability and functional strength. He's not trying to hit a personal best on the squat rack. He's debugging the knee.
Yeah.
And the result. He notes that the knee pain and muscle spasms have subdued significantly. He isn't pushing for performance, he's pushing for operational status.
I love the note he makes about the pain itself. He says, I remain as stoic as ever.
That's the core philosophy binding all of this together. Stoicism often gets misunderstood as having no emotions, like a robot. But in this context, it's about not being enslaved by the system alerts. He acknowledges the pain, that red light on the dashboard adjusts the system, and carries on.
Right. Getting angry at your knee isn't going to fix the knee.
Neither has.
He also has a maintenance routine for his mental OS. We see meditation logged, but it's not an hour on a cushion in a silent retreat. He logs sitting meditation for just 1 to 3 minutes.
Microdosing mindfulness.
But he also lists walking meditation while raking leaves.
And that is the ultimate software plumber move. You have to do the chore anyway. The leaves need raking. That's home maintenance. Why not use that runtime to also clear the cache in your brain? He's stacking functions. He's optimizing his time.
It's efficiency, but it's also grounding, which is a good transition, I think, to the other side of his life. We've looked at the body. Now let's look at the intellectual ecosystem. Because if you think his health tracking is intense, his output is even wilder.
It really is. The volume of work is impressive.
He is writing 3 posts a day.
3 posts per day.
In 2026, where most people are just, consuming content or scrolling through short-form video, he is churning it out. But he clarifies, and I think this is crucial, he says, I'll still keep my current strategy of writing to learn.
That is the key insight. He isn't writing to be an influencer. He isn't writing to go viral. He's writing because the act of explaining something forces you to understand it.
Yeah.
It's a compilation process for the brain. If you can't write it down clearly, you don't actually know it. It exposes all the gaps in your knowledge.
And right now, the subject he's compiling is Haskell.
Haskell.
Now, for those listeners who aren't deep in the coding world, we should probably explain why this is significant. Python or JavaScript are like everyday languages. You give a command, the computer does it. Haskell is different.
Haskell is a functional programming language. It is notoriously difficult, very mathematical, very abstract. It's not something you just pick up to build a quick website. It requires a completely different way of thinking about logic itself.
And he notes that he's starting to relate the mathematical concept that supports the functional aspect. So he's not just learning syntax, he's upgrading his own cognitive processor.
Exactly. He's stretching his brain, he's working out the mental muscles just like he's rehabbing the knee. But here is where we see the software plumber get a little annoyed.
Yes, even stoics get annoyed.
He spends his spare time fixing other people's code on GitHub, the platform where developers share and collaborate on software.
But he has a specific complaint. He says GitHub is getting flooded with, and I absolutely love this phrase, vibe-coded projects.
Vibe-coded is a fascinating cultural observation for 2026.
What does that even mean in this context? Vibe-coded. It sounds cool, but he clearly hates it.
Well, based on how he describes it, he's critiquing projects that prioritize style, hype, or maybe messy AI-generated code over actual functional substance. It's code that vibes, it looks cool, it has a great landing page, maybe it uses the trendy buzzwords, but the underlying structure is messy or inefficient.
So it's useless.
He says it defeats the entire purpose of collaborating, because if the code is junk, you can't build on it. You can't build on top of a vibe.
So how does he handle this? Does he go on social media and rant? Start a flame war?
No. That would be inefficient. He grabs his plunger, he does the unglamorous work, he submits pull requests, PRs to fix minor typos, he runs a tool called Ruff.
Rough, like a dog.
R-U-F-F. It's a linter for the Python language. Think of it like a very, very aggressive spell check for code. It finds stylistic errors, unused variables, formatting messes. It just cleans the code up.
So while everyone else is trying to build the next big flashy thing, Aang is going into the basement and tightening the screws so the pipes don't leak.
It's the janitorial work of programming. But without it, the whole structure eventually collapses. It shows a deep respect for the craft. He's fighting entropy, one typo at a time. It's a thankless job, usually.
That is such a consistent character trait. He's doing it with his knees stabilizing it, he's doing it with his diet balancing it, and he's doing it with strangers' code cleaning it. He just wants things to work correctly.
He's an optimizer. He sees a system, sees an inefficiency or an error, and he wants to patch it. It's almost a compulsion, but, productive one.
But he doesn't just fight entropy on the screen, he's fighting it in his backyard, too. This brings us to his analog hobbies.
This is where the system expands into nature. And honestly, it's where the software plumber metaphor is most beautiful.
Yeah.
Because nature is the original complex system.
He's a gardener, but again, not a casual one. He mentions having thousands of culinary seeds stored for propagation.
Thousands. That isn't a packet of seeds you buy at the hardware store. That's a database of biological potential. He's banking genetic code.
And right now, he's focused on germination, watering, weeding. It sounds mundane, but in the context of his week, the sickness, the coding, it feels like more maintenance.
It connects perfectly to the coding. Think about germination. You cannot force a seed to grow. You can scream at it, you can email it, it won't matter. You can only set up the environment, the soil, the water, the light, and wait.
Just like setting up a server.
It's the same thing. You create the conditions for success, but the execution happens on its own timeline. You debug the environment, not the plant.
And he's applying that same wait-and-see logic to his fish, too.
The yellow-blue rack project.
Which sounds like a server cluster, but it's actually for fish. He's breeding cichlids.
Cichlids are tricky. They can be aggressive, territorial. Breeding them is not easy. He says he is priming several pairs of fishes, hoping to induce them to spawn.
Priming. Again, notice the language. It's so technical.
Exactly. He isn't making them breed. He's optimizing the system. Variables, temperature, water quality, food, to trigger a biological event. He's debugging the tank. He's tweaking the config file of the aquarium.
But he notes, so far, nothing significant seen so far.
And that's the reality of systems, especially biological ones. Sometimes you execute the code and nothing happens. You have to wait. He's looking for fish for outdoor ponds too, so he's expanding the system even further.
He treats nature not as this chaotic force, but as another system with inputs and outputs that can be managed. And in the midst of all this, seeds, fish, Haskell, a bad knee, a virus, he still has to deal with his house.
The home improvement log. The never-ending backlog.
He has a rule. Decluttering one item per day.
I love this rule. It's so simple.
It's so effective. It's incrementalism again.
Exactly. If you try to clean the whole house in one day, you get overwhelmed and you fail. It's like trying to rewrite an entire software code base in one night. You'll just break it. but removing one unnecessary item per day.
That's 365 items a year.
It's a massive refactoring of your living space over time with almost zero daily friction.
He's also got some pending tickets, though. Installation of curtains and grout work on the front yard balcony.
See? Even the software plumber has a backlog. That makes him very relatable. We all have that grout work waiting for us. That one ticket that just sits in the to-do column for 6 months.
It really does. So, putting this all together, we have a guy who gets sick, has a relapsed knee injury, sleeps poorly, steps drop to 500, and has a backlog of home repairs. On paper, if you strip away the philosophy, that sounds like a bad week.
If you look at it emotionally, yeah, it sounds frustrating. It sounds like a week where you just say, you know what, I'm done. I'll start over next Monday.
But that's not the tone of the blog post at all.
No, the tone is calm. It's observational. It's just data.
So what does this all mean for us? Why should we care about Aang's step count or his cichlids or his Haskell code?
I think the key takeaway here, the nugget of wisdom we can all steal, is the concept of the baseline.
The baseline.
Throughout the post, Aang references returning to the baseline. His sleep drifted, shifted back to baseline, steps dropped, recovered to baseline, weight dropped. Okay, establish a new baseline.
So it's not about perfection.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Perfection is a myth. Systems fluctuate, servers go down, people get the flu. The software plumber mindset isn't about preventing every single error. It's about having a monitoring system good enough to catch the error and a protocol to correct it. It's about resilience.
He didn't quit his health goals because he had a glitchy week. He just acknowledged the bug and applied a patch.
Exactly. Most people treat a bad week as a total system crash. They format the hard drive and give up. Aang just clears the cache, maybe reboots the server, and continues. He trusts the code that he has written for his life.
That is surprisingly inspiring. It takes the emotion out of failure. It's just data. It turns "I am a failure" into "the system is currently suboptimal."
It's just data. And data is neutral. It's what you do with it that counts.
I love that. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the life of our stoic software plumber, I want to leave you, the listener, with a thought.
This is the challenge part.
It is. Aang tracks his typos in code and his step counts in life with the exact same rigor. He reviews his week impartially. So here's my question to you. If you reviewed your last 7 days with the cold, impartial eye of a system log, if you looked at your inputs and your outputs without judging yourself, what bug in your routine would you spot immediately?
And more importantly, what small patch would you write to fix it?
Maybe it's decluttering one item. Maybe it's eating some deep-sea fish. Or maybe it's just fixing a typo in your daily schedule.
Whatever it is, debug it. Don't delete it.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you in the next log.